How's it, guys? Okay, so it's been a while. I've been quite busy and I haven't been able to get out. Same old story. But before I continue, let me quickly do today's shoutouts. So, today's shoutouts go out to Halis7714, Marupeng Moses, Adelaide Bingham, Tabang Mazibu, James Gray 89. I'm reading this without my glasses, so please bear with me. Dicabelo Petros, Alfred Khadebe, Edwin Kahutia from Kenya, welcome, Stenja Khadebe, Uten Bon, and Manyatela Gumza. Guys, thank you for your continued support. My apologies for being so quiet the last while, and I know there are many messages I haven't responded to. I apologize for that, and I'll make sure to get to them tonight. So, where am I today? I'm at Be Human on Middlewater Farm, which is between Bloemfontein and Brandfort in the Free State. And I'm at the Senepol National Auction. Now, there's just something about this breed that keeps on drawing me back. Some of you might remember I did a piece on the breed when I went out to a farm about 3 or 4 months ago. And when he informed me that they'd be having or hosting their national auction, I knew I just had to come through and have a look. And the reason for that is because while I saw his animals, I only saw one version of the breed. Each breeder selects for their own traits, and therefore I now get to see what all the other animals look like. Now, just quickly some background history on the breed for those who might not know. It's still a relatively new breed in South Africa. And because of that, not all the animals that they're offering on this auction will be 100% pure. In order to build up numbers of the breed, they actually had to cross Senepol with some other breeds like your Afrikaner and your Thuli and your Bonsmara, and continuously breed them pure. So they're still building their numbers. It's a young breed, it's a new breed. But nevertheless, there are still some beautiful, beautiful animals on this auction. Now, if you have a look at the catalogue, and for those who are interested or might be interested, the auction will take place tomorrow at 11 o'clock. Once again, Be Human, Middlewater Farm, between Bloemfontein and Brandfort. But if anyone might want to actually be online, you can also go onto SwiftV. The auction starts at 11 o'clock. 23rd of August, which is tomorrow, Saturday. And I know I'm repeating myself. I just don't want to get anything wrong and then people miss out on an opportunity. So what makes this breed spectacular? Well, first of all, they carry a slick gene, which means that they have very, very fine coats. And I'm going to look now for one of the best examples that you can see it the easiest. But basically, these animals have very fine hair coats, and even if you look at the females in front of us, the lighting's not of the best, but we're not even out of the winter yet. It's still cold. We still have temperatures of under 10 degrees at night, and yet there's hardly any hair on this animal. So they carry the slick gene, or the slick coat gene. Secondly, because they are a cross between the red pole, if I remember correctly, and the Ndama, they already have some good hardiness and adaptability bred into them. They're considered a medium frame breed, and for the most part the animals here are medium framed. However, there are a couple of bulls that are a bit on the larger side. The females are extremely feminine. I don't know if you guys will see it as well on this video, but if you look at this heifer's head, very feminine animals, nice size. They carry a little bit more meat than our indigenous breeds, and yet still retain the fine bone structure that is important to those who are looking to breed animals or produce animals of grass. So the fine bonedness, if that is even a word, is a fairly good indication of femininity, but also the ability to do well with grass. Just to show you, look at the bull. Beautiful. Look at the slick coat on this bull. Okay, so they carry the slick gene. The bulls are tested for all of these. Once again, they're still building up their numbers, so all the bulls are tested for the slick gene, and of course for double muscling and things like that, while the females are not. Quite interesting. This is quite a blocky, solid animal. They're surprisingly heavy. Despite being medium-framed animals, they're surprisingly heavy and solid animals. Now, keep in mind, these animals have been prepared for this auction, and it's common practice across all breeds. So they will look a little bit better than what they would look on grazing when they're in the veld working. However, if you go back to the video that I posted a while ago, you'll actually see how well they can do under high density grazing and reliant mostly off grass. So most certainly a breed that I think can add a lot to our South African cattle industry. In fact, it's my opinion, and I mentioned it before, I think these animals are actually thus far, because they're not well known, underrated and undervalued. I was speaking to one of the breeders earlier, and he says if you're farming with different breeds, and in my case indigenous animals, using these bulls as a terminal cross will bring a lot of uniformity to your progeny, and uniformity in terms of color and slick coatedness. And as well, they polled, lest I forget, these animals are naturally polled. Now just look at this bull's head. You know, we often talk about sexual dimorphism. Look at the wrinkles on his head, look at the darkening of the neck. There's no doubt that these animals are most certainly masculine. And I most certainly find the fact that they have these fine coats to be not only attractive, but a definite advantage in our country where we often struggle with ticks and external parasites. So, let's look at this bull. Guys, this is one of the bigger bulls. I just want to get around if he allows me to. He's one of the bigger framed bulls. In fact, I think he's the largest framed bull. And I've been here about 2 hours and he hasn't stopped. So he's definitely got high levels of testosterone in him. A lot of masculinity, a lot of testosterone. Now someone asked me earlier, what do I look for when I look at a bull? Well, there's a couple of things I look for. Just quickly, this is a bull by Freddy Besselaar. I don't want to say too much lest I sound biased, but Freddy has a herd of Ngunis as well, and I rate him a very good cattleman, a very good breeder. Now, I'm not trying to be biased and say he's better than the others. That's not my intention. I don't know the other breeders, but it's easier to talk about him because I actually know what he does. I have a fair idea in any case. But looking at a bull, what do I look for? Well, first of all, I'm looking for good balance. I'm looking for masculinity. He mustn't be overly muscled. He mustn't be too coarse in build or in build. And definitely good neck and head characteristics. You must be able to see that he's a bull. If you want to see examples of bulls that don't look like bulls, go and have a look at some of the American show prize winners. Secondly, I like a bull with a nice clean sheath, and I'm looking at him now because he's in front of me. I don't like a bull with a thick pendulous hanging sheath, and he's got a very nice sheath. Then I look at the testicles. Obviously they've got to be of a decent size, and you'll see all of that on the catalogue. But I also want to see how well the epididymis has formed, or how visible they are. Now, if you wonder what the epididymis is, I can't get a good shot on this one, but it looks like two little walnut-sized bumps on the bottom of the testes, and that's also a very good indication of masculinity. Of course, you want to know what the bull's background is, what the breeder, what the conditions are the breeder has bred them on, and what his management looks like. There's a nice looking bull as well, and I think I can show you the epididymis better on him if he stands still, and now he doesn't. Okay, that's Murphy. So I'm looking for good masculine traits and characteristics. I'm looking for sexual dimorphism. I'm looking for an animal that's well muscled without having very thick legs and bone structure, because I'm not looking for an animal that's going to give me birthing problems or calving problems. Let's quickly look at this. That is also a trait of high testosterone levels. My goodness. You can see I'm out of practice. I haven't made a video for a while. Coming back, I said there would be pedigree bulls, and I'll say pedigree that are 100% Senepol. Sorry, my mind wandered for a moment. And then there are those that are registered as B or C in the herd book. And while they're registered animals, they're still not 100% Senepol. Now, here's one of the bulls on offer. He has the highest production values on paper. He's registered as a B, and of course these animals are necessary. They're still building their numbers, and they don't have access to enough 100% pure Senepols. Forgive me, I'm trying to page through my catalogue with one hand, because I actually want to get his figures out. There we are, block number 33. So in order to increase the numbers, these animals are on offer, and I just want to share with you quickly some of his numbers. Let's have a look on there. Okay, I hope you can see it there. There's an overall value of 132. I'm just going to see if I can zoom in. Calving ease value of 109, calf growth value of 115, milk value of 104, maintenance value of 110, and fertility value of 116. What I like about this bull, he weighed 37 kilos at birth. Now, this is one thing that did surprise me. I see a lot of the bulls are a little bit heavier. Generally speaking, I become uncomfortable the moment something goes over 35 kilos, but that's my personal opinion. That doesn't make me right or wrong. So he's 37 kilos at birth and has got some phenomenal values on his pedigree. And so all the bulls have their values on theirs. So, and you'll probably see that online as well. So there are in total, heck, I think 50 odd lots of grown animals, nearly 50 lots. And then they also have some commercial animals in the back there that I'll show you soon. But if you're looking for a bull that you want to cross, if your animals are a little hairy and you want to slick them down a bit, if you have Goonies like myself and you just want to breed in a bit of color and produce calves that are maybe more market acceptable, then this is the kind of breed you need to look at. I actually think that they can cross very well with just about anything. Given my background, I for many years saw the value of heterosis or hybrid vigor, and crossing these animals with Angus, Goonies, Tulis, I'm just trying to quickly think. Crossing these animals, even Afrikaners and such, I think can make a huge difference. Of course, the further apart the two breeds are genetically that you cross, the bigger the effect of your hybrid vigor or your heterosis. So I watched a video a while ago where they actually crossed the Senepol with Brahman in Australia. And despite the Brahman being a larger framed animal, and despite the Brahman supposedly having better growth traits or expected to have better growth traits, the resultant cross still gave a 33 kilogram heavier carcass at the end of the day compared to the pure Brahman. So this animal certainly brings something to the table. I'm not saying it's going to do that for every breed that you cross it with, but it most certainly brings that to the table. Of course, and I don't think I mentioned it, there are 7 points that the scientists have, or traits that the scientists have identified. Actually, it's genes, I think it is, markers, that's the word I'm looking for. 7 markers that the scientists have identified that affect meat tenderness. And where most breeds only score 2 or 3 out of 7, these animals on a regular basis score 4 and 5 out of 7. And I think meat quality is important. Meat is becoming very expensive. People want a pleasurable meat-eating experience. And if you can produce top-quality, succulent, tender beef, man, my words are I'm losing my words today. If you can produce top-quality, succulent, tender beef, then you're adding to the actual overall perception of beef and the value of beef as a protein source. Anyway, guys, I'm going to see if I can walk around that side. I see I'm starting to waffle again. As I say, I've been fairly busy. I haven't had much time to get out. The one or two things I had lined up fell through the mat due to no fault of my own. But at least I'm here today. Look at that bull. Beautiful animals. Another thing about these animals is they're very calm. They have a very good temperament. Calm and mild-mannered, calm temperament, which makes it easy to work with them. Not always an advantage if you live in a high theft area, as I do. But when it comes to working with them, most certainly a benefit. I'm just going to zoom in quickly on the epididymis over there. There we are. Those two little buttons on the bottom of the testes, that's the epididymis. So you see a bull with that has well-developed epididymi, then it's certainly an indication of good fertility. Guys, just hold on, I'm going to move around quickly. Okay, just quickly. So here are some of the commercial animals or heifers on offer. They're all pregnant. I would expect that they're not 100% pure because they're not registered as pures in any case, but over and above that, given the fact that the numbers of pure animals in the country are low, I'm assuming these would be 50%ers or maybe 75%ers. But either way, that's a beautiful heifer over there. That's a beautiful animal over there. She's extremely feminine. Nice fine leg structure. Oh, another thing I nearly forgot to mention. What I also like about the breed is they at least have a decent slope to the rump. And this is just something that I saw. I can't say it's a fact, but it would appear that in proportion to their body size, they actually have wider hips than many other breeds. And I'm not saying this for a fact. It's just something I saw at Nampo that seemed to be true at the time. So beautiful animals, nice and feminine, some good slope to the rump, which is important so that you don't sit with calving problems. And they've got the slick coat. These, I think, are 5 to 6 months pregnant, if I remember correctly. Once again, nice slick coats, which is good for parasites, external parasites, as I mentioned earlier, and I think will also help in the summer heat. Nice and feminine. Guys, these are really good animals, or at least this is a good breed. I don't know these animals as such, but this is a breed that has a lot to offer us, and I'm really hoping that for the Senepol breeders going forward, that people will see the value of these animals or of this breed, and that they will gain momentum in our country, especially when you start farming them on high density system or high density grazing systems. I have strong opinions when it comes to things like this. I've made no bones about the fact that I believe we need to produce good quality beef for cheaper if we want to survive. Unfortunately, our current marketing systems don't support the local breeds or the indigenous breeds. But if you need to put a little bit of beef on your nguni or your, well, not your tuli as such, but on your ngunis, or you want to bring some color in to get a more market acceptable weaner calf, this is most certainly the breed I would look at. Now, we'll be coming through tomorrow. I think I did mention it. Maybe I did. This is the second take on this video, so I sometimes get a little confused. But my son has saved up some money and he's hoping to buy something. I don't know if he's going to be lucky. I have a feeling that these animals are going to go for some fairly steep prices, and power to the breeders. It's what they're here for, to make a living and to survive in their own humble way. So we might not be lucky, but you never know. Here's a cow and she's calved, and that's a beautiful little calf. it would be the perfect starter pack for my son. But once again, depends on what the prices do. I suspect they're going to be out of his reach. Anyway, guys, I think that's long enough. Tomorrow, 11 o'clock, be human or on SwiftV. If you're looking for something different that can bring a lot to your herd, has a lot of benefits, good milk production, the ability to grow well. If you're looking for a breed like that, this is most certainly something you can look at. Anyway, guys, I'm going to stop it over here. Yeah, you guys must have a good one. And if you've watched this far, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Cheers.